In this video, I'm going to be going over my project that I built a custom PC in an original Xbox. My plan behind this Xbox is to create a HTPC, home theater PC, so I can utilize and use it for a family room entertainment center Steam machine, you could say. I'm going to use Bazzite. As I get into more details on the initial project, I did originally choose Bazzite. However, I ran into some issues because I thought there was another Linux flavor that I was going to use, which is called Nobara. This may have either been my issue or issue of hardware. We can just go ahead and just blame it on me, that user error. But anyway, I have having some issues with using Nobara on this HTPC. I installed it 2 different separate times, and then I went in and did updates, and as far as I could tell, the GPU, which was another mistake I made in this project, but also utilizing parts that I already have. Basically, it would never update properly. It kept kind of going in infinite loop update with Nobara, and then after I would do a permanent shutdown and come back and reboot it, eventually it would turn on, but it'd be an infinite reboot loop once it got to the Nobara Steam kind of logo, and just kept rinse and repeat. It'd get to BIOS just fine. That wasn't an issue. Then that's when I decided I'm tired of messing around with it. So I went to Bazzite and used the Nvidia beta version, and it worked like a charm. First time installing it, everything was smooth. There's just a few tweaks that you kind of have to follow on the Bazzite website and their documentation. It's, I believe, advanced GPU acceleration. You'll have to make sure that that's enabled to have performance-friendly gaming mode, and you also can have an issue to where you're not able to boot into gaming mode. So you'll have to, in the desktop mode, you'll have to go back into those settings, disable it, re-enable it, restart, and then it should go back into that gaming mode. This is, I'm sure, just because of the fact that they're still in a beta mode. They're still working on getting drivers through Nvidia to be updated. It would have been better, of course, since I've gone with a Nvidia GPU to go with an AMD. If I would have knew that at the time, I would have purchased one. That is my personal mistake. But anyway, I've gotten this project going with a Nvidia GPU. The initial PC specs are an Intel i3 8300T 3.20 gigahertz. I'm using, the GPU I am using is a Yeston RTX 3050. That is an Nvidia card. The motherboard that I'm using is an ROG STRIX 370i. It's very old generation. The RAM is 32 gigabytes. I am using a FSP Group Mini ITX solution, 80 plus gold, 400 watts. I found that this was a perfect form factor for using inside this Xbox. Because space was a big issue in setting this up initial process. So this supply was crucial, having something small and just the right wattage. Some of the main snags that I had in this initial project was I wanted to use 3.0 USBs and the controller 1, 2, 3, 4 ports. But for some reason the 1920 splitter that I used was not working properly. I tested it using it with a micro USB, testing to see if it would read that drive with the splitter, and it wouldn't on both sides of 3.0. So what I had to do is I ended up unplugging the splitter and just plugging in one set of the 3.0 USBs, and then it worked fine. So then that's when I determined I was going to have to also use some 2.0 USBs off of a 9-pin on the motherboard. So I did that. So you'll see that the 1 and 2 is USB 3.0, 3 and 4 are USB 2.0, which is, it works great. I'm not having any problems with it. I used hot glue to basically fasten them so that I can push my USBs in and then be firm and not move at all. I didn't have to actually mount. Hot glue is kind of a ghetto way of doing it, but it's working great, and it looks great from the outside. Looks professional, in my opinion, anyway. All right, doing a little bit more fiddling around. I guess I'm just kind of making plans as I go. With clearance issues, I'm just going to use these wing nuts and mounts to the bottom of these holes that I've made, and just use this as a template actually for the motherboard to mount into here. And I'll just put the anchors here and then mount those these wing nuts and then mount the motherboard to it. So it'll just be right over the top of this little position right here. I shouldn't have to worry about any of these old threaded mounting points. I guess this was just useful for mainly just making a template of drilling out these holes. I definitely would recommend using something like this over trying to use a template off of a motherboard, unless you have a crap motherboard. That's the correct size. Alright, let's get these. Another useful thing that I could actually use that Arctic sheet for is if there's some stability issues with this bottom housing on the Xbox casing, I could piece it out and use it to help the structure. I think though that the motherboard and the power supply which I'm mounting right here should give it a little bit more stability. It may change if I decide to carve out a spot here for ventilation. I don't think there's a need to, because I'm going to leave this back panel just completely open for airflow. I think that'll be efficient enough. Now I may actually go back over this stuff and clean this off now, since I'm not going to have the Arctic sheet covering it. But let's go ahead and test the motherboard, see if it actually will mount to these points. Yeah, the mount's good. It's I'm not going to tighten it down, but it should tighten down just fine. It looks pretty nice and flush. You can see here. I'm thinking about just leaving it open, but I might change that and have some. I could easily 3D print something, or even just cover it with venting. Got the motherboard mounted. Feels actually pretty firm with it in it, thankfully. I'm going to do here, I've got my nice little power supply here. I'm actually using these
threads here to actually mount it. I made a template and drilled holes in the bottom so that I can bolt this power supply in here, drilled holes here and here, where the old power supply port was. Just seemed like a good place to mount this. Kind of utilize some of these little plastics that are sitting here to kind of hold this firm in place. Too much, just enough to keep it mounted. See here, nice and sturdy. It's a matter of getting the pinout on this lined out. I'll leave in the description the pinout for this. There's I believe pin 1 and 3 are grounds. Number 2 is actually the power switch. Number 5 and 8 are the green LEDs, which are pretty much the only ones I'm going to use. I'm not going to utilize the eject button due to, well, there's just not enough space to use the CD player, like I said before.
Here I did a lot of organizing. I haven't been doing some recording off camera just because of figuring some things out. I've got my board here, the power board, wired. I've consolidated all the wires and kind of tucked them. Excess wires over here on the left and right of the power supply. I've got the USBs 3.0s plugged in. I've got some of them hiding underneath the motherboard, and I've used some. It's kind of tacky, but it does the job. Hot glue. I've got them fastened in the fronts of these controller ports. I'm working on now trying to get some fans hooked up. Gonna caddy off of this, and I'm gonna hook up, solder 2 of these together, and I'm going to mount them in the top of the Xbox case in the corners here. You can see that there's clearance here and here. It's probably hard to tell there in the camera, but there's enough space I can put some here. It's not a lot of airflow, not a lot to work for. I gotta have also taken consideration my GPU is going to be right here, of course, on the PCI. On the RTX 3050, I had to make some small modifications to the exterior mounting plate. There's a shorter one. I had to break off one of the little mounting points that usually goes on your typical tower, just so it wouldn't be protruding out from the backside of the Xbox. I had to also disassemble it just to place on this shorter, low profile mounting backplate. I also had to do some modifications to the top of the case so that the GPU would have clearance, just some smoothing out. You'll see later in some of my top pictures related to the fan.
This is the Xbox here that I've put PC in. I've already got it closed up. You can see here I've got 3.0 USBs right here, 1 and 2 on 1 and 2 slot. You can see in the 3 and 4 slot here I have 2.0. I tried to do 3.0s on both sides, but a splitter for the 1920 pin just did not work. So I had to go with 2.0s and use a 9-pin to be able to use these for USB ports. I kind of wanted to keep this as original looking as possible. Of course, these USB ports aren't quite original. You can, of course, I've heard people utilizing the old controller ports. I just didn't want to use that. It's just more practical for me for what I was going to use it for as a home theater PC. Just having USB ports in the front is just going to be a lot more practical for me. You can see here I have the CD slot here. I could not fit it. I would have loved to have been able to do it, but just with how I've set it up, there's just no way. With clearance and with maybe possibly even heating issues, just where this was placed, I'd have to completely redesign how I had everything lined in on the internals. So I just decided to use a little double-sided tape here, and I painted on the outside so that way it kind of looks as close as possible to the external of the Xbox, and it just kind of blends in real nicely. It looks original to its Xbox. You see here on the bottom, you can see where I actually do have some screws on the bottom where I actually did some mounting. Here's the original little rubber feet. I actually got a little bit higher, thicker ones. You can see here off Amazon. They're about 1/4 inch. I just liked them a little bit better, just because in fact it kind of brings it up a little bit higher off the little platform, shelf I have it sitting on in our entertainment center. Plus with these bolts I have setting out, they kind of sit on the glass if I didn't give it a little bit more raised. You can see here's the rear. I don't think I'm going to do anything else to this rear. I just like this open. That way I can have a lot of airflow, because most of the airflow is actually on the sides of the Xbox. You can see here where I have a fan mounted here on the inside. Then same as this one, fan here. You can see the GPU from this side. I just wanted the extra flow, that way there can be some airflow coming in and out. I haven't done test runs for heat yet, but I'll do some videos on that. You can see here's the GPU, here's the back side of the motherboard, and this is the power supply. I'm gonna go ahead and take it apart and just kind of show you how I've gotten it set up. I also, of course, you notice that I've got these Wi-Fi antennas. I'd angled them so that they won't be propping up. I want to keep it from the front just to look as original as possible. These are just handy because then that way I don't have to worry about putting Ethernet in it. And these are the original screws. I'm using the original screws for the 4 sides. I couldn't put bolts here just because of the fact that the micro ITX board is in the center of it. It just wasn't feasible. I did notice too on this side right here with the GPU, it probably would fit a little bit better if I actually got an external extension for it to mount it like on the floor of the internal of the Xbox casing, but I'm not super picky, so I have it set up and lined up, and it's actually firm with how it's mounted with the top on, so I am absolutely satisfied with it. All right, pull the top off here. When I pull it off, you'll see here. You can see on the top, I'm caddying off of just a 5-volt to power these fans on the top of the case. You can see here. That way I can just pull kind of some airflow in. Go ahead and unplug these so I can show you how I've got it set up in here. Set this cover off to the side. All right, here we go. One of the first things I think I'm going to show you offhand, you can see here, here's where I've mounted the USBs. I've just used hot glue. It's done the job. Since this is just a personal project, I'm not too worried about doing manufactured, just professional type stuff. This is the original Xbox power and eject button board. Had to look up the wiring, how these worked. I could have figured out myself, but it was just so much easier to find documentation on it. And finally found something. I'll provide it in the description or just an image of what these pinouts are. I tried for hours to get the original LEDs on this board to work with this motherboard. I think it's just my motherboard. You can see there, those ports right there are for the LED or HDD. I tried both, and for some reason it kept getting an infinite restart loop, and can't have that because then it doesn't work. So I deleted that, and I decided to use, you can see here I'm just using these just generic Amazon power on and off light LEDs. Basically I've spliced 2 of them together so that they're on the same switch here. This is the HDD. And what I've done here is I've actually removed the old LEDs, and since I couldn't get it to work, I just drilled them out a little wider so I could actually stick them down in, and they actually work really well after doing that. And then I just got some hot glue here just to kind of keep it from pulling out, so it stays in place, and it lights up really well around the eject button. Let's see here. The eject button, I actually do have it wired, but I mean, if I'm going to use it, I need to change it just because of the fact that, I mean, it's an eject button, and I like you see here, I don't have the CD player. Here's the power supply I have mounted over here. I've just kind of tucked away all the wires. You can see that where I've tucked all the excess stuff there. Here's where the 1920 pin just didn't work out for me. I was trying to split it into 2 so I could only use 1. And you can see over here, that's where the 9 pin is, coming over the top to the 3 and 4 ports. And here's my GPU. I don't have anything really holding it except, like I'd mentioned, the top of the case actually holds it in really, really well. Keeps it from moving around. I had to kind of shape the top of the casing because of this right here, kind of how it protrudes in from the top. You have to be careful if you kind of do a very similar step to me. There's just some stuff that protrudes here that I was able to shave and be able to give it a little bit more clearance so that it can actually sit there nice and solid. You can see here I had to do some shimmying as well. I could have done an external PCI Express mount over here to the side, but I just decided not to worry about it since I was able to set it up this way. And you can see here the top of the mount for the GPU. I actually just I took off because there's no reason to have it and there's nothing to mount to. I could lower the motherboard. That could be something later down the road. I actually left it this high just because of the fact if I do have an issues with cooling, I can rearrange some of this ketchup and mustard wire here, kind of move this over there, and I could actually put a real nice slim fan and then just blow out the bottom and suck it in through here through the top. But I would say that should hopefully be enough to pull it in through here in the center, and then this GPU here should be fine with being full access to this side that's completely exposed to the outside. I decided not to go with its metal aluminum housing just because of the fact that, well, cooling was my main concern. So I just decided to delete it all, especially since these sides were completely open, like closed off. Like I just decided to scrap it because I couldn't envision any way of keeping it cool unless I had some kind of machining to actually make something out on that. So I've just kind of bolted it straight to the Xbox case here. You can see I've just got some wing nuts here screwed on the bottom. And of course they're mounted to that through that.
Alright, here I'm going to go over the Xbox panel. You can see here is the eject power. This is the pinout for it. Be sure when you're using the power button and eject button, be sure to use the associated numbers, pins with that. Use 1 with 2, 3 with 4. As long as you get those sequenced right, then it'll work just fine on your motherboard. I had a hard time with getting that set up at first. I was kind of confused. But once I found this pinout, then it made sense to me. Your ground, of course, is 1, and then your power is number 2. Your main connections there. Anyway, on to what I actually did with the board with the LED lights. I had to remove them. I tried to utilize and use them, but I plugged them in and wired them sequentially to the HDD or the LED. I used both slots on the motherboard, those pinouts, and for some reason every time just booting it up, once I got to BIOS, it would just restart and then rinse repeat and keep in this restart state. But when I'd unplug those LEDs from this Xbox board, it'd boot up just fine. I wouldn't have that infinite restart. So in order to keep pretty close to original look of the Xbox, what I did is I removed these LEDs. You can see here, I removed the old ones. I completely deleted all the wiring and used my own external. I got some LED lights off of Amazon that I could use with my motherboard, and I just basically soldered 2 of them together to be able to put on the same port on the motherboard. And what I had to do too, since the LEDs that I have were actually larger than these actual LEDs on the Xbox, I had to drill out these sections where these bulbs were a little bit larger so they would sit in it. And once I did that, they sit fine. Use some hot glue to fasten it in so they wouldn't come out. But just FYI, if you are using the eject button here, you can see the wiring that kind of comes through here on the board. The wiring here that kind of goes around this section of the bulb, you don't have to worry about because it actually is associated with this bulb. Since I was no longer going to be using it, it was irrelevant to me that I would break these connections around this. Just be careful, if you do go up too high, you could break this connection to the eject port. Thankfully, I did not ruin that because I didn't have to make it that large. But that's just kind of an FYI if you're going to do this same kind of replicated setup. But it's worked great for me. I don't understand why those LEDs from the actual board were causing me issues. Could be a hardware issue because of my motherboard or something, or it could even be just me. But anyway, I found this setup. It worked great. It may not look exactly vanilla to the actual Xbox because of the color of the lighting of the bulbs that I have, but I'm absolutely content with it, satisfied, and happy with how it's come out. I've done some test demonstrations. I'm going to use the video games Hogwarts Legacy and Oblivion Remastered. I'm going to do some test runs with the spec modes up. You can see that I've set both of them at 30 and locked them at 30. I had to do a lot of different tweaking with the specific graphic settings for the games, and actually within the Steam user interface I edited some graphical settings just to optimize performance. Granted, these games are going to be on the higher end of the hardware that I have, but I also believe, from what I'm experiencing, most of the tweaks that I could do myself to improve performance would be that since both of them are both Unreal Engine rendering basically, I may be able to do some more tweaks that I might be able to research online to help with that performance. Oblivion Remastered seemed to play a little bit better, except the transition between initial going into different areas, especially open world areas, I noticed was the worst. Hogwarts Legacy seemed to be a little bit more steady, but it was still, of course, a little bit sporadic. This is just proof that I am running Bazzite on this PC. You can see it says Bazzite 42, and you can also see here's my PC specs. On top of that, I'm actually running an Nvidia GeForce RTX 3050, and you can see here the Nvidia 570 153.2 driver being used. This is an issue I noticed where I can't boot into gaming mode. So basically, I thought I was going to have to use big picture mode, but what I had found out is this is obviously an issue with the Nvidia beta mode. I basically disabled and re-enabled GPU accelerated rendering in web views. After doing that, restarting and then having it boot back up, and then it'll go back into gaming mode just fine. This must just be an initial issue with the Nvidia drivers and the beta Bazzite version that's being used. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And I hope this encourages you to be positive and to be creative.